you mentioned like there was this kind of like push or this wave where where Signal came about and then it became the norm. Um, what do you think that was from? What do you think, in your opinion, how did you see that playing out? Why all of a sudden did people start caring about end-to-end encryption and encrypted messaging and things like that?
So I'm not a historian of technology or anything, but from my view, I sort of see it in this way, right? Around the 90s, when widespread use of the internet started happening, you now have the ability for people to essentially chat with each other on a massive scale electronically, and then either encrypt it or not. And then it sort of became a topic of debate. Should we allow people to have end-to-end encryption? Right? There was a time when the U.S. government just plain didn't want it at all. Right? They wanted every chip to have some kind of backdoor where, if there was a warrant, then they could just decrypt it. I think it's called the Clipper chip or something. You can look this up. But yeah, there was a time when it was sort of not a settled proposition whether individuals should be able to use cryptography with local keys that would not be sort of subject to exposure on demand, right? And there were two sides, and the sort of battle got fought, and continually up until the 2010s or even early 2020s, there were still people trying to prevent end-to-end encrypted chats from existing, right? Like, you get lawmakers who subpoena WhatsApp and say, we want the chats. And it's like, guys, like, I don't think you know how this works, right? Like, we just can't do that. So, it kind of seems absurd now, but this is a very real thing. And, now the tide has been sort of settled definitively in the favor of end-to-end encrypted chats, but it wasn't always this way.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like I think in many ways, the corporate surveillance of our activities, our buying habits, I think it's just when somebody is, searches for, like a couch or something on Google, and then they're seeing ads for couches on their Amazon TV, or even the Stranger Things. But I'm sure we've all had happen is you're talking about buying a couch and then you get an ad for a couch,
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
totally happened.
yeah, and it's I think that people are just seeing that, and they're thinking, wow, huh, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and I don't want this to be happening anymore, and I especially don't want it to be happening in my private chats with other people. And I think that's where the big surge in Signal use came from. And now it's become normal. And of course, we think that needs to happen on Ethereum, and really in crypto in general, is privacy just needs to be normal. And I think it will be very soon.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting point you also made earlier that sort of relates to this about, how our kind of, we used to be, everything was private by default, and that kind of slipped away from us, and there was a debate early on, and I think maybe this points to kind of like, the sort of force of the power of the flow of capital. I would imagine, as you said, yes, there were debates going on about this, but then there's these companies and these whatever government bodies or whatever that kind of like accelerated the growth faster than we could like iron out the issues and say, whoa, like, do we want this? And that's something that's kind of gotten away from us. And yeah, I guess in the same sense that the same thing, right, is happening with the crypto ecosystem, right? We're like, this new thing's come about, started using it. We're getting like, we got we got some good numbers, right, in the crypto space. It's not like super fringe anymore. But we're coming back again. This cycle of like the debates are happening now, and like, are we going to let like the the VCs, the Googles, whatever, we're gonna let them take over, and like just the force of capital will just take us with, we'll just go with that tide? Or are we gonna, you know, kind of like put our foot down, or interject, you know, the path? And I guess this is kind of what FIRN's trying to do, right? You're trying to offer up a solution and sort of riding that wave as people are coming in and trying to establish yourself as, or even establish the values themselves as like a standard.
You know, I recently watched a video on a totally separate topic, but on AI, and about these sort of general language models. And these people were making this point that, look, like we have not agreed as a society yet that this is a good idea, right? Like, these things are developing extremely fast, and maybe we want it or not, but we have to have the debate, because, you know, there can be, you know, massive consequences. We just don't know how this thing will sort of behave in society yet. And you know, I think there's a similar point about privacy, right? Like, we have had technological advances which have massively reduced our privacy, right? Things like smartphones everywhere and ad targeting. And I couldn't point to one sort of point where somebody has said, look, we should figure out as a society if we want this or not, right? Like, let's assemble a panel of experts who can sort of say this, you know, this side and that side, and at least we'll have the discussion, and everybody can watch it, or something like that. I don't think that's happened for privacy. There's been, I don't know, there definitely some bad press on privacy, but the conversation about if it's a good thing or not, I haven't seen. I think, but yeah, as you said, I think we want to make that conversation happen, and offer an additional, at least some tools.
Unchecked governments have eradicated privacy and truth. Those who resist are brought down swiftly, but we refuse to submit. Unipunks are freedom fighters, protected by encrypted shadows. The future we're building is sovereign and uncensorable. The moonlit night